All right, 1st and 5 after the penalty on the play. We've got 3-by-1 to the right, but doing it from 21 personnel because you got Juszczyk and Kittle right here. Already we can see they're covering up weak to the tight end side right here, so the defense is indicating that as the run strength. The extra DB is here. And what we get here is we get motion going to the single receiver side. We can see there's a defender carrying, so whether we want to call this cover 1 or 3 match, and obviously it looks like cover 1 based on what we're getting from the corner here. If he's running across, this wouldn't necessarily be an indicator of man. A lot of times it is when the DB carries, but it could be an indicator of just trying to get to proper numbers. They're a team that's willing to play corner over and cover 3. There are some other variables that stick in there, but I think we'd say 75-80% of the time that's a man indicator. And what the offense is running is they're now running counter, and they're running counter to the tight end side. Now, with these 3 guys here, we know this is going to be a little bit messy on the front side, trying to get a down, and a kick. The purpose of the jet here is trying to get, in some cases, maybe you might pull a linebacker for width, and he might have to go with the jet. Someone's got to be responsible for it, but it's also potentially to pull the defensive end, which we've talked about on some other plays. Using influence to try to get defensive ends to widen, or understanding that when you down block with the tackle that the defensive end is going to chase it. In this case, that's what happens, right? The guard goes and he tries to kick out this guy right here, and we'll look at it from the end zone in a second. He's not able to. He ends up spilling it, and so now Juszczyk, instead of fitting inside, has got a log outside of this. And that's the purpose of a defense doing that, is it really strings out the run play. And if you've got players coming down to play through the alley, through that, that force position where they're angling it back in, and you spill it with the defensive end, that's a difficult thing for the offense to handle. So again, they're running counter to the 3 tech, and there's nothing wrong with that. But with these 2 guys here, instead of an off-ball defender, that can get a little bit messy because he doesn't really have a perimeter responsibility anymore, even if his rule is initially to follow the tackle down. So as we see the motion going across, a couple things we'd want to check. Is 32 going to chase that? Is 51 or 27 going to chase that? Is anyone there responsible for the jet? And realistically, none of these players react to that. None of those players react to the jet. Right, 27 doesn't react to it. The only guy who's following it is the DB who's running all the way across the field. Right, so no one's reacting to the jet. The Niners don't get the influence off the jet they were looking for, and now we're looking to see 51 is stepping down, and he is trying to scooch inside of the pulling guard, which means that Juszczyk, who's now the lead, cannot fit inside. Ordinarily, you'd want to see this guy kick out, and then Juszczyk should pull inside and get to the ream. When you can't do that, you've got to log it, meaning he's going to hook, and now Juszczyk's going to bounce outside. Personally, there are some teams that do that really well. The team that comes to mind of those teams that were excellent log blocking was when Le'Veon Bell was with the Steelers, and I may have mentioned that already. But I personally find that sometimes, especially at lower levels of football, sub NFL levels can get really messy. And that's a little bit what you see here, where now if you've got guys like we were talking about from the wide who are playing with leverage, and this spill guy has forced the ball to bounce, it's really difficult to have enough blockers out on the edge to make this work. And that's kind of the issue that you run into here. So, Chiefs do a good job, and we're kind of seeing the teams now what their responsibility is going to be when tackle goes away, when guard comes at them. What's their job going to be? Well, it's to slip inside and try to spill that run game, force them to log, and then have pursuit coming around the edge. And that's something that the Niners should be making note of for later in the game. And as we go through the game, I'm kind of watching this for the 2nd or 3rd time through. We'll see if that ends up being the long-term plan for the Niners.